Hi guys, welcome to the end of the Cash Game World Challenge video. I'm just going to go over some results and some hands for people. This is my overall graph. You can see we ended up just under 1,000, but in EV we won a total of 1,800. If we view the leaderboard here, it actually measures the performance in EV winnings. You also have to be eligible for prizes, you have to have done 20,000 hands. I'm just going to shout out the winners here. One went Softwap 45 was the overall winner. Inner Peace came second. This guy, yeah, Fish came third. You see the solid volume that they did. The Raptor came fourth. This guy, Big TK, came fifth. And if we scroll down all the way to here, you see my name. So my overall goal was to be profitable in the challenge, and I did achieve the goal. However, the actual volume that I did was such an insignificant sample that it basically doesn't matter. Since I only joined halfway through the challenge, I decided I would only play a few hands to get some content. I would say if I could do it again, I probably would try to grind out 20k hands, but I was more focused on trying to hit my rake back beginner bonus on coin poker, so I focused more on playing tables that had rake rather than the rakeless challenge. However, overall, I enjoyed the challenge. I think it was very fun. It was a very good idea by coin poker to do it. I want to congratulate the winners. I'm going to take you guys into some of the final hands and stuff that happened, just to explain a little bit more towards the end and talk about some interesting hands. Yeah, just to talk about the graph here at the end, you can see here we kind of sort of got to about 600, 500 buy-ins won, and we kind of flattened for about 1,000 hands, and we just like lost 4 buy-ins very quickly. Obviously there were some all-in EV issues, but there was a reason for this. The reason was my environment suddenly became extremely bad to play, and unfortunately I played sessions which I should not have. But yeah, I just basically played hands when I shouldn't have played hands, when my mindset wasn't right, and I made some mistakes. I made some very big mistakes actually, which I'm going to show you. Okay, so I've got a few hands here which these are hands I think where my mindset wasn't right and I was very distracted and I played the hand incorrectly. This hand came, we decided to take a flop 8-7 offie on the anti no rake. We thought this was fine. We got this flop. He decides to bet on this 8-8-5 board, a very good board for my range. Direct decides to raise. So the thing about Director's range here is he will have some bluffs here, but he's also kind of ripping an 8. I decided I would only ever play a free bet in range here, because I think my continues here are just 8x and like draws basically. So I clicked. In hindsight, I think I should just play a very unbalanced strategy here. Direct chord, 5 turn, check. I see no point in betting because if he's on 7-6, he's just going to fold the turn. So we checked. He shoved. Now here on the river, I actually think this is a fold, and I'll explain why I think this is a fold. Although it's not really the worst call in the world because he's kind of just repping an 8. You know, he's probably most likely just going to have like 9-8-8-7 or just like 7-6. So you might think, oh, he has potentially 3 combos of 7-6 suited. If he's free betting them pre sometimes, maybe he has like 1.5 combos of 7-6 suited or 2 combos of 7-6 suited if we weight them. And then he has quad 5s and then 8x, and he's trying to like bash me off of a chop with 8x. But I actually think in this situation, I think it's a fold because his range here, I think, is almost entirely quads. And I just snap called. I think I should have at least stopped and thought about this hand for like a minute. But in game, I was like, I'll be honest with you, my mindset was not in the right place because of things that happened towards the end of the challenge. my personal life. So I snap called and he had quads, but like this might amaze you, but like I genuinely think this is a fold on the river because this spot is so niche, and his size is so specific that I just don't see why he would jam here with anything that isn't quads. I don't see why he would bluff jam either. If he thinks I'm bluffing a draw, I'm sure he would have picked a different size and scheme. I just think like it's a zero bluff spot and you should just fold. But okay, so this is a hand that was analysed on the stream actually against Clairvoyant. We free bet, he calls, Queen 5-4. So in this spot, I'm assuming the ranges are a little bit wider than theory because of my size and scheme. I usually play b50 here, but against this player I decided I would play bet 25 of range instead, and he went for check call. The reason I picked b25 range, I didn't think this player would check raise out of position enough at the time. But that being said, that's besides the point. It probably ended up costing me, to be honest, in the end. Turn, I think, because this is like still a very good board for us. He is supposed to like raise a 4 a decent amount. He doesn't have too many 4s. Doesn't really have hands like ace king of clubs in his range. He 4-bets ace jack suited a decent amount, although he'll 4-bet some of the queen x as well. So I'm talking about king queen jack here. So he'll 4-bet like ace jack of clubs pre, but he'll 4-bet some of the other hands pre. So I don't think it's like pretty like pure barrel hands, to be honest. As it was mentioned in the stream commentary, we want to check diamonds more because we want to, on this kind of texture, we want to block the queen. So we barrel. He thought about it for a while and he called. The range here is probably going to be a mix of pocket pairs, queen x, maybe a hand like ace 5, potentially just mainly a mix of pocket pairs, queen x. It's generally what we're expecting. It's not entirely possible. He could even have a random hand like ace queen. But yeah, we decide to, I would say like our hand is mostly a bluff in theory. It might even be a pure bluff. It's just like a spot where like some of our ace highs just want to take showdown value at this point. Let's say showdown value is just going to give up, but like being a rainbow texture, it's less likely he's continuing with a flush draw on the turn. He more likely just has a pocket pair. That should be mix and fold or call in this line, so he jammed, and again, it's just kind of pressuring his pocket pairs to fold. He thought about it for a very long time and he called with nines. This is a hand that should mostly fold, but sometimes call. He decided that he would sometimes call in this situation. I thought this was like a pretty good bluff, but unfortunately I got bluff captured by a hand that I was hoping would pure fold. But at the end of the day, it is what it is really. I don't really see any reason why he would think I was over bluffing here. It is possibly because of the flop sizing, assuming the range bet maybe leaned him more towards the call, opposed to like a b50 sizing where if I think I did play b50, b70, he might have folded a turn. But I don't really know, to be honest. But his hand is not a punt call. It's just a hand that should be mix and fold. And, you know, it's fine. This was probably the hand that ended it for me. This was one of the last hands I played. So I'm playing and there is something occurring in the background in my house that is incredibly distracting. And I really shouldn't be playing at this moment. And I kind of found out later on that this was a very serious situation that was developing. However, I decided to free bet sevens. I could have flatted, play mostly as a free bet, get this board, decide to go for 25%. We could have also mix his hand as a check. He called, we hit the 7 on turn, decide to pure bet my hand. There's just lots of hands we can get value from. 8, all of these pairs with a spade, they're going to be in there. He might have like some ace queen off with a spade, maybe some king queen off with a spade. He's going to have some jack x. I think his better jack x is not going to fold. So we definitely get a value here. He called it. Then we hit the river here. I thought about value betting, but I realized that like we're not going to get value from like a set or ace jack. Potentially maybe a set, but we'd have to bet a small. So I figured I would check, and then he jammed. Now in this particular spot, I confused it with another spot where sometimes you can play these spots and it will run out for flush, and the in position player will basically bluff too much. And I was thinking, is that this spot where the in position player bluffs too much? Because when I thought about the game from a range perspective, I thought, okay, 35% pot odds, roughly what we get. His bluff, he has to turn like ace jack into a bluff here, or something like that. He has to be very creative, or like maybe he would be super creative and turn 5-4 suited into a bluff. Do you know what I'm saying? Like a straight, or 7-6 into a bluff. Just something like that. Um, that's what I kind of thought. So I thought, okay, there's probably not enough bluffs here. But I'm just trying to think. I'm going to think back to my data, my MDA days. The spot which I'm actually talking about is the IBPFR spot. Lots of bet check bet lines, that go into this line end up overbluffed. The spot is not overbluffed; it's very underbluffed. And my confusion of the spot is, well, I would say it's I mean, every mistake is forgivable. It was a huge mistake, like a huge EV error. Like some of the spots, like that King Jack hand I just showed, if the guy is like pure calling nines, it's probably like maybe slightly losing bluff. Maybe like 1 PB per 100 in EV loss if he's pure calling that hand. This, in my opinion, is like a big EV loss. Like I'm calling 81 on the river. I think I'm losing like most of this 81. Like I'm probably losing 50 PB in EV here. That is a huge error. And it was after I made this mistake and I realized my mistake. I quit the challenge very soon afterwards. But like you see, these kind of things happened towards the end of the challenge, and that was kind of the end of it, really. But yeah, now we're going to go through a few of the hands that we played towards the end of the challenge in the last week. Let's just bring up some hands here. We are playing lots of third with range. We get min raised. We decide to just rip our hand in there on the flop. This was kind of like against. I think this is the wrong play. The play is okay. I think I prefer kings without club. But I'm just kind of basically saying if you've got ace queen, let's run it kind of thing. I do think free betting the flop is viable. I thought I would only play a jam in range. Yeah, you could also play a click in range. I think also his play is actually quite a good play against range bets. Yeah, we just end up getting here set, which is fair enough because he's only using min raise here. I think in hindsight, I probably would rather just pure call that spot with my kings with a club and then like mix my other kings combos. Whereas in that spot side, I would mix my kings jam high frequency. But like that was also kind of the beginning of where I felt my mental performance was like failing. I was abandoning well-known strategy. So here we king 4 mixes free bet cool. Third flop cool. Side I will bluff this one off cool. Then we just hit the river. Debated 10%, decided to check, we check down and we beat ace queen. Queens. Decided to check. A lot of hands in the spot, he checks back. Go for this size, he calls. Then we play a shot on the river, we get heroed by a top pair. Fours, we take a call. He bets half. We decide to call with the spade. Without the spade, I might have started potentially check raising a bit more. This size, we're going to call this size on the turn. He shoves. This spot, I think I'm okay with this bluff catch in the river. Because it's blind v blind, he has a lot of potential bluffs. He could have like, it does suck that we block ace-4 offsuit with the 4 of spades, which could be a hand that would bluff, but like he's going to have like a bunch of ace-5s. You know, if the 5-4 kind of sucks to block. I just think there's like lots of potential bluffs. Like he could have jack-8 offsuit with a spade. Queen-8 offsuit with a spade, king-8 offsuit with a spade. Potentially lots of bluffs for 33%, so we flipped it in there. You could argue the 4 foldness would have been better. This one we decided to bluff the river for half, believing he would mostly bill a jack on the turn, so your value range can be like 10s and 9s with clubs, or jack X and biller. This hand I could have barreled on the turn, but mixed as a check on the turn. And in the river he went for a weird bet. Obviously we value raising our hand always. Potentially could have bluffed this, but I have a lot of potential bluffs. I decided to bluff on the river, mainly because most of his natural calls in this spot are going to be built around ace-10, queen-10 suited, ace-jack, etc. But he ripped it on us and he had the nuts. Decided to defend, the smaller open. Decided to play a huge check raise here. We weren't doing this 100% of the time, we just did it on this occasion. Queen, I just think we have like the perfect bluff in hand. I ripped it in there, he tank call 2 pair. ISO spot, as you can see as a LP here. Flop in lane nudes small. Decided to bet turn again, despite having the jack of diamonds, just because I think there's again similar spot, lots of middle pocket pairs with diamonds that which at the turn. And then I just go for value shove anyway, because there's weaker sets. 7s and 9s I think could be a part of his range, and I might get heroed by like 10s with a diamond. Sometimes ace jack off with a diamond. Although I think ace jack off is unlikely to call the ISO free bet, but you never know. But he folded. MW. Crazy hand, but obviously he had it. Bluffing our tits off here. We want to bluff a lot of these, like, just go back to pre-flop. So we're bluffing like, we're not betting a huge amount on mono boards like this, but we do have like things like 6-5. We have some flushes. But we still also want to value bet on the jack over card, like a decent amount of overpairs. So we're going to bluff the ace-5. We can't just only bluff diamonds, because like if a four diamond rolls out, what we're going to turn into a bluff. This was going to bluff on the 4 diamond, but we just reached showdown and we got a good result. A hand here could have 4-bet pre. Side to call, could sometimes raise. Got a nice river. So it's about half. In hindsight, I don't like this size because it's not. I don't think anything our value range really wants to go half. Maybe a king, but like, you're not a huge fan of the size and scheme. I just think we would have preferred a bigger bet here in hindsight. We did get a call by 9s, so that was good. Here I go for this size in scheme. I could have gone played jam turn, but I wanted to go this size because this size looks insanely scary to me. So I went half, and then we were always going to jam on a spade, so we got like a dream. So he tanked for a very long time and then caught, jammed it in there with sevens. I do have to say, I don't have anything against his call, but I do have to say, if you're getting called by sevens with a spade in the spot, I'm not saying that the sevens with a spade has any relevant blockers other than like 7-6 suited. Um, 7-6 of spades, like, but if you're getting called by this hand in this spot, you probably shouldn't be playing a bluffing range. Yeah, so I kind of started to learn that I probably shouldn't be. I mean, we did hit it running twice and hit, but I started to learn at this point bluffing didn't seem to be working a lot against some of the players. They were just calling you anyway. So obviously my image is quite aggressive, or they just don't care and they just call. It's fine. I went for this very small value raise in the river. I wasn't super comfortable doing this, but I thought he just had like ace jack or ace 10. So I thought there was also a chance he would free bet jam kings with a spade. So I was actually probably willing to call him off, but I don't know why he had to miss. He tanked for a long time and then folded. Very nice flop check. Decided to check raise his hand I hate because of how I played it. I decided I would mix my hand as check again, but I think in hindsight you just have to pure value bet this hand. He didn't take the bait and check back, and I decided to use 70. I could also like use an inverse size in here, but I wanted to like kind of represent that I had some kind of two pair. But like if it's just to explain how the mono spot works in theory, is you're not meant to do huge amount of check raising, but I think the simple way is like don't get too fancy in these spots, just go bet bet bet. Because like this hand probably might have folded the river, but judging by the fact that people were bluff catching quite wide, there's absolutely no excuse for me not to have put all the money in here. In my opinion, and like put him to made him like actually think about bluff catching in his hand. So I think that was another poorly played hand by me. I did play a lot of like mixing with the nuts because I thought I didn't want to be predictable, but I think I just lost value when I was mixing too much. This hand's actually interesting because so I just want to like speak like this board is very weird. Someone would in his spot would bet into such a nice board for. Sorry, this guy opened. This guy cold called. So let's think about this guy's range when he overbets. His range is um, sets basically, and then maybe like queen x, like king queen of diamonds or something, or ace queen of diamonds. Typically, I would say on average the spot is going to be underbluffed by the river. However, I thought considering the narrow nature of the range, the amount of flush draws he could potentially have in his range, I thought that he potentially would just go bet the turn and then give up with a diamond on the river. But then he's bet the river anyway. I thought this bet was very strange on the river. When I call turn over bet, I don't think he would bet queen x on the river. I don't think he has nines. I thought he had fives, threes, or sevens. He's got so 7 realistic combos that would be in his range. It's not impossible he could have value bet ace queen of diamonds. So we're talking about 8. So from 8 combos, offering me pot odds of 28%. It doesn't have to be bluffing very often. But the problem is if you try and think of like natural bluffs here, you're not going to think of any other than like ace 4 or something like that. But you have to remember these players are quite creative and quite good. And I also just didn't believe him in the spot. And I also thought that like this is just one of those spots where it's just like it's a multi-way, it's not standard, it's not solver approved. People can't like pick, they're just making their sizings up. And I just thought the way this hand developed, the sizings that he picked, I just thought he's gonna jam or bet bigger with a set. So I just thought we were just running into like bluffs extremely often here, and we ran into like the pure Jack 10 off airball. Decided to half this pot. Good mix. Hit the ace turn, decide to quarter third. Hit the ace river. I think here it's a mistake to jam. I think we want to go smaller on the river because he's going to have ace king in his range. He's going to have like suited ace x of hearts, ace jack, ace 5, etc. I just think it's a mistake to jam. I think we isolate ourselves way too much against like sets, and we don't all really. We're probably not going to get called by ace x that often. I'm probably the most that I'm probably achieving here is getting him off of a chop. So I think this is a mistake. I think we should pick a 30% river size or a check and see if he'll bluff 9-8. We'd cover this hand. We 4-bet kings. This board's, we go small on this board. It's interesting spots like this is like the synergy of like king jack in the ranges. So like I have some king jack, he has king jack. But if this is a under the gun versus +1 hijack spot, he's actually not meant to have king jack if we used bigger sizes. Although I think people can still call them. So like if in that spot specifically where he doesn't have king jack, but he might have like tens and nines, we could actually potentially jam the flop, but because he can have king jack, we're just going to play quarter. We could also mix our hand. Then here we decide to check. I think betting here for like 20% is the best play. Then I decide I would just bet small. He folds. I thought like again just mixing in my kings into a range that wants to bet small rather than playing a jamming range here. Because I want to value bet like sets for this line as well. But yeah, I think just like jamming is probably the best play. This hand, I think. So do this. He raises. I think here my hand could jam and mostly wants to call, but sometimes jam. In the game, I actually just decided to jam because I couldn't be bothered to do it that turn. But I did actually roll a call and ignored it. Again, a sign of my mental state deteriorating. Not very proud of it. But I knew I should play my hand as a call because I feel like King 7's just a bit like far down. You can still jam it, but it's just like you want to be jamming maybe a little bit stronger, like King Jack, Diamonds kind of hand. But yeah, jammed. The main hand he wants to do this with is Ace 9, by the way, and that's exactly what he had. Shock, I know. Queens, we would 4-bet this or call it. We decided to call it on this occasion. Make nuts, just a slow player hand, don't see the reason in raising. No longer nuts, small, I mean I'm just calling down. So when he jammed the river, I actually like, the thing about this spot is like, I know he's under bluffing in the spot. Actually maybe not, but like you just can't fault this, like you're just always going to be beating value in this line. Maybe like aces with a spade, that kind of ace of spades, maybe king queen. But you're going to be beating some value here, regardless. And there's also potential for bluffs to exist as well. But unfortunately, he just had a flush, which is a cooler. Aces is a very good hand. It's, again, similar spot here. The amount of queen jack suited in the range I think is important here. How much he has. But he does also just have tens and nines in his range. I'm supposed to have some of his hands sometimes, but I don't really 4-bet king jack suited here. I think you can in theory. We decided to just do the size, and then we just decided to shove the turn. Plenty of like jacks and queens with a heart that really hate the sizing, but we could have also played 30%, 50%. What am I trying to stack? That's a good question. I actually don't like this play in hindsight. I would have preferred a smaller bet on the turn. I think this is a bad play. Using half here, still want to value bet like 10x. Decide to value at the river because of my half pot turn sizing. If I had used overbet turn, I would have checked the river back. Because of my half pot turn sizing, he has a lot of hands like Jack 10 that are going to call the river. He's going to have things like 10x just in general. He's going to have like ace-x of diamonds. So I have the value bet. He raised me kind of small. This is not a very fun spot to be in. However, I do think players are capable of bluffing, especially in this formation where King Queen is very, very often free betting pre. And I think 9-8 is possibly check raising the turn quite a lot. And I think it's possible offsuit ace-6 with the ace of clubs might play a bluff here, but I also think it also just might bluff catch. But I do think it's possible that Alan would potentially bluff. However, I think they probably would jam. So I think the most likely thing that's happening here is he called the turn with like, Queen 10 and decided to turn it into a bluff, or King 10. That's my assessment of the situation anyway. So I thought for 25% I would call, but he just had a flush. We'd done this hand already. Another spot we could have played. We decided to go half with range against a player we didn't know. Then we just do this and he folds. And now we're kind of into the spot where the pots aren't getting like huge. This is another spot where I definitely should be jamming the river here. Check and turn is fine. Here we just have a pure jam on the river in my mind. I think ace king is actually mainly bluffing the turn here, to be honest. So it's not like but in my opinion, we just have to pure jam this. Like the other thing is he's also just going to have like 7s and 8s and 9s in his range, or like very often in my opinion, and he could check the turn back with a 6. And we just need to bluff, and like we could even go half pot or a third, like represent like um, ace jack or something. I don't know. But to me, we do want to sometimes jam here with like 10s, or jacks, or or even just play a 70 size in on the river with those hands. Typically in this line, I think when you check a set on the turn, you probably want to use like 50, 30. If you check ace king on the turn instead of bluff it, you could jam that hand, or like king 9 that you were planning to like check jam the turn with. So I just think this is a perfect bluff. I did not take it. Again, another sign of declining mental state. We missed out on a easy pot there, which we should have won. Here we go, half, get check raised. Because of the size and scheme, I think we should be folding the flop here. But for some reason I thought even we should be focusing on calling our suited hands. I thought I want to call king queen off a little bit here, so I mixed as a call. But we should really just be focusing on our suited hands instead of this. And then he barrels and we folds. Mistake by me. I changed my strategy here and play 70 or check. We get the turn. We could have bet this turn, decided to check, and then the river again decided to check. I was considering he had like a decent amount of queen x in his range, or 8x. So I checked thinking I'd probably make more money if he bluffed, but he just had 10s with spade, which might have called the river bet. We decided to 4-bet. check, and then we decide to play 10% flop. He goes for a very small raise. Against this sizing scheme, we are not supposed to fold hands like this. We are supposed to fold like king jack off or whatever. You know, no backdoor. But we do fold. When he checks, I could play a very small bet here, or I check. I decide to check because I think most of my ace-x will just check anyway. Then the river comes, he checks. Very happy to see eject. So I just take showdown. He has eights, trying to target my part of range. He's with this size check raise size, and he's targeting like folds from like king 10 of clubs or something like that, or king jack offsuit, something like that. We go 4-bet. What's a very lovely flop for us. Mixing this pre, we decide to check raise his hand very often. He just jams. We are against kings. We unfortunately run twice and lose, and the sevens hand we already saw. That was the end of the video. That was the end of the challenge. Overall thoughts. I'm very happy that we actually came out the other side of profit. Long term, do I think I'm a winner in these games? I actually think if I could have played the whole challenge, I think I would have been a winner in the games. However, so I do think I would be profitable long term. I could be biased in saying that, but I think I played relatively good poker. The thing that I lacked is like my mental game was in some of the hands you saw there. It was definitely not at its best at certain points in the challenge. I made mistakes, and I also didn't take the extensive amount of notes that I normally take when playing. I was focusing on far many other tables, so I was playing too many tables. If you look at the leaderboard here, there are so many regs that came and played a few thousand hands and were small winners. It was only these guys that like pulled ahead in the challenge. Obviously these guys have to be good players, and they also have to run well. These guys, they're all good players and they all ran well, and that's the same thing. But I could have easily been one of these players. In this point, I would have probably quit the challenge around here if I was one of these guys. I don't know a lot of them, but you can see people like Ben a Bad Beat played some hands, and if that is the real Ben a Bad Beat, he quit the challenge after this many hands. I'm assuming it's the real guy. He could be the wrong guy. But like lots and lots of players are in the same situation. They came, they played a bunch of hands. They started badly. They decided to quit because they didn't think that they could win, or that other things were happening. And some of the players that played probably could beat the games. Like I recognize this guy. Like this real Matt Roberts guy, he lost 10k. He kept battling despite losing 10k. But like this guy was the same. He kept battling despite losing 10k. In my opinion, these guys could have been winning players. But there's a lot of players that could have been winning players. Right at the bottom, this is Stefan, who's quite a legendary player in the scene. He lost the most in the entire challenge. I'm not saying that he ran bad the entire challenge, but some of these players would have been capable of winning the challenge if they just ran a little bit better. But they just quit the challenge quite early because they started badly. Where I got, I won about 4 to 8 buy-ins in 2.6k hands, and I just didn't play very much volume. But I think I could have potentially competed if I ran well and took notes and played my best game, and I'm hoping that this thing happens again in the future because I want to try and prove myself. These guys at the top are probably very deserving of their spot. I'd say especially the guys who have a lot of hands. And I congratulate them on their success. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.